Hi, my name's Jonathan Hoffman. I'm an Israel advocate in London, England, and I want to tell you about the anti-Israel demonstration that took place here on Tuesday, the 11th of May. So, I guess now 2 days ago. Um, there was a big anti-Israel demonstration close to where the Prime Minister lives, 10 Downing Street. The demonstration was in Whitehall, and it was big. And the worst thing was one of the worst things, because there's a lot of bad things, but one of the worst things is they bring their children, or people of a certain ethnicity, and there were about 80% of the people there were of a certain ethnicity, which I won't mention, but they bring their children, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. What on earth are kids doing at an Israel hate event? What chance is there for those kids to grow up having respectable relationships with Israel, people from Israel, or respectable relationships with Jews? It's just, I can't even think about it. Anyway, we turned up, probably 10 of us pro-Israel people, and we had an enclosure. The police gave us an enclosure, and we had a big banner, and the banner said, if the Palestinians lay down their arms, there would be no more violence. If Israel lay down its arms, there would be no more Israel, which is true. Um, so our enclosure was between the subway station and the main demonstration. So the guys had to come past us to get to the main demonstration. And we were sworn at, we were spat at, we were accused of being baby killers. Those of you who are activists in Israel will be familiar with all this stuff. So things got the temperature got hot. They got angry, and there were more and more of them. I reckon there were about 3,000 of them in the end. And at the start, there was a distance between us and the demonstration, but that distance gradually got smaller and smaller and smaller. And in the end, they were right next to us. And they were rabid. That's the only word I can use. Rabid. Rabidly angry. I've never seen anything like it. And they started attacking us, throwing things at us, throwing firecrackers at us, throwing bottles of water at us. And we had police protection. The police were fantastic. We had a line of police in front of us, but even so, it was getting, a line of police against 3,000 people. You can't police that kind of hate. So they took the decision to take us away and take us to safety. And what they did was the police made a human bubble. And so there's the human bubble, and we're inside the bubble, protected by the police. They did a fantastic job. So as we were moving out from the enclosure, I noticed on the left-hand side there was a wall or a pillar, and some anti-Israel people were on there looking down at us. And all of a sudden, I fell to the ground, and I didn't understand why I'd fallen. There was a lot of toing and froing, a lot of physical contact, because we were close to each other. But even so, I thought maybe I tripped over, somebody tripped me. So I fell, and you can imagine in a crush, you fall down. Look at what happened at Lag BaOmer, at Mount Meron. People get crushed, and all I could think of was I was going to get crushed. And it happened not just at Mount Meron. It happened at Heysel Stadium. It happened at Hillsborough Stadium with a soccer match in England. Anyway, luckily, I was helped up, and I must say that two of the anti-Israel girls helped me get up, and thank you very much to them. So anyway, I got up, and the police got us to safety. And as we were going to safety, we looked back and we saw that they got a guy on the ground. They were arresting him, and we didn't quite know why they were arresting him. Anyway, so we got to safety, and thank God. And the next morning, somebody sent me a URL from the Mail, which is the Mail online Mail, which is a big online section of a British newspaper, and the headline was pro-Israel was anti-Israel demonstrator jumps with 2 feet on pro-Israel demonstration, and that was me. And what had happened, and I couldn't see it because he jumped from behind me, but he jumped off that wall and he tried to land on top of me. Luckily, he did not land completely on top of me, but he landed next to me with both feet. Now, that guy, if he'd landed on top of me, he could have killed me. Or worse, I could have been left in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So anyway, they arrested the man. The guy's been He hasn't yet been charged, but he will be charged. I don't know what the charge will be. I hope it's attempt to murder, because that guy attempted to murder me. But so that's the narrative. But there's a lesson I want to communicate to you from this. And the fact is that these anti-Israel people, they complain wrongly. They have no evidence whatsoever. They complain. Sorry, step back. As a result of this hostility and this hate, we've decided in London we will not do, for the time being, not forever, for the time being, we will do no more pro-Israel demonstrations at anti-Israel demonstrations. We're not going to go on the streets. And in fact, this Saturday, there's a march on the Israel embassy, which normally we would go and counter-protest at, but we're not going because it's not safe. These people are rabid. They want to kill us. And it's not safe for us, and it's not safe for the police. And we can't put people through this who might get hurt. So the lesson I want to communicate to you is these people, these rabidly hostile people, say that Israel denies human rights. It's rubbish. Israel does not deny human rights. Israel is the most respectful of human rights of anywhere, certainly in the Middle East, possibly in the wider world. They say that Israel denies people human rights, but here they are denying our human rights. We have the right to be on the streets peacefully with flags, supporting Israel, showing our affiliation to Israel. But we can't do that anymore because these bullies, these cowards, these despicable, I won't call them animals because it's an insult to animals, but these people have taken away our human rights. So who is violating whose human rights? You tell me. And it's been fueled by politicians. There's a lot of left-wing politicians in Britain, and I notice AOC and those people in the US in the Democrat Party are fueling the lies. They're fueling the lies about Sheikh Jarrah. Sheikh Jarrah is owned by Jews. The courts decided that. And the Palestinians were allowed to live there as long as they paid rent. They're not paying the rent. And what happens if you don't pay the rent? In any civilized country, you have to leave. And that's what's happening. The Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Why are Israeli security people in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which we've seen on the films? The enemies of Israel say that Israel is denying the right of Muslims to worship in the mosque. That is an absolute appalling travesty, and it's a lie. They're not in there disrupting anybody's religious freedom. Israel is the most respectful of religious freedom in the whole Middle East, possibly in the world. They are there because Hamas is engaged in a fight with the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas is inciting violence in Jerusalem. And the violent people, they throw stones on Jews, and they are trying to run into the mosque to get shelter there. They think that the police or the Israeli security won't follow them into the mosque, but they have been following them and they're arresting them. And that is what is going on. And I challenge any politician on the left in the UK or the US or anywhere to actually tell the truth. Tell the truth, guys, because your lies are fueling the bullies and fueling the kind of person who tried to murder me on Tuesday night. Thanks very much. My name's Jonathan Hoffman. If you want to follow my blog, just Google On the Dark Side. Again, On the Dark Side, and then my name, Jonathan, Jonathan, Jonathan Hoffman. On the Dark Side, Jonathan Hoffman. Thanks very much. Shalom, and wishing peace come speedily to Israel. And may Israel always live in peace. And may the kids not have to go into the army anymore. Thank you. Toda v'shalom. Toda.